Hello everyone, Rudolph here, and recently I've been playing WoT on and off, attempting to transfer my attention to other games and balance myself between different categories. But I always find myself coming back to WoT, no matter the timestamp, and I never could nail down why. However, after putting some thought into it, I deduced the main reasons why I continue to return to WoT and will continue to return, despite some of its diminish in monetary value recently. My first reason is that there has a what-if factor. Although it's true that WoT aims to be historically accurate, let's face it, that isn't so. However, I think this has worked in their favor. This allows many tanks that were blueprints to be brought to life and surfaced in a fashion they never would have before. Mentioning this, I do walk a narrow line. If we delve too far of historical accuracy, then it wouldn't make sense why they shouldn't just add the Abrams, Leclerc, Merkava, etc. But I believe Wargaming's digging with the past, while remaining within a certain time period, is interesting, and makes for some interesting tanks to be introduced into the game. Alternatively, there's the here's what factor, which is where everything is completely historically accurate. There doesn't pose for much variety, and player skills excluded, history may only be repeated. While it is concerning that WoT would boast historical accuracy and then introduce essentially fake tanks, it allows for a variety of gameplay, and more invested players can continue to earn new things. The what-if factor has room for growth, whereas the here's what factor limits games based solely on completely historically accurate information and content. I do believe that WoT shouldn't advertise historical accuracy, but alternatively should advocate World War II era technology. I've recently been playing For Honor, a Ubisoft melee game where I've been sent message after message of assault, and constantly teabagged by enemies and allies alike. Becoming frustrated with this, I switched to Rainbow Six Siege, which didn't help my situation, as I was team killed, booted, and sent messages in no particular order. Attempting to learn from my mistakes, I fired up Overwatch, where I was placed on teams that players would constantly avoid any tactics and play whatever they wanted to, and if that didn't fall in their favor in the first 2 minutes, they'd leave the match, ultimately causing loss after loss. This comes to my second reason why I continue to play WoT, and that is the community isn't nearly as toxic as in these games. Players of WoT normally don't go out of their way to make sure you're having a bad time. Sure, there are those unaware idiots that push you, but 9 times out of 10, it's unintentional, and you're both in the same place at the same time. And while teams are definitely bad sometimes, they aren't massively toxic, which I've grown to appreciate. You can't be viciously gunned down by your teammates, like in Rainbow, and booted, and you can't be harassed or teabagged constantly, like in For Honor. Sure, there are going to be outliers and toxic people in any game you play, but in WoT, they're definitely less frequent. These other games I've been playing have me constantly fighting for my survival against my enemies, as well as my allies, and even struggling not to let the team down, just to not receive a hate message for once in my career. This leads me to my third reason, which is that WoT, unlike many recently available games, isn't a run-and-gun type ordeal. For example, For Honor has smaller maps with constant combat, and Rainbow has a timer that runs 3 to 4 minutes on a round, encouraging swift and decisive pushes. WoT timers run a swell 10 to 15 minutes per player to take their time and perform multiple jobs within the series of one match. Many things can happen from start to finish of a single WoT match, and this gives many opportunities for people to perform their duties and make other choices. I don't feel constantly pressured to do as much damage or kill as many people as I can in little time as possible whenever a battle begins. Yes, we've all had those matches that have lasted 2 minutes tops in a game, but WoT's design doesn't encourage super fast Call of Duty gameplay. It's World of Tanks, and tanks weren't built to be on par with the swiftest Ducati Panigale V4s or Nissan Skyline R34s. WoT is oriented to be a medium slow-paced game where players can take their time to make the most impactful decisions. In a rather slow-paced game, it would be no surprise if every one of these tanks was a slow, lumbering hunk of junk with an unreasonably large gun. But in WoT, that isn't necessarily the case, leading me to reason number 4. WoT offers a variety of classes, and in my personal opinion, classes within the classes. This means there are tanks like heavy mediums, medium heavies, hard-hitting mediums, you name it. This means that one class of tank is not limited to one playstyle. Sure, heavies are meant to take the front lines, but different heavy tanks do this in different ways. The I-7 takes the front lines by aligning itself straight on with danger. The Kronvan, however, takes a different, but equally strong approach. From a hold-down position, the Kronvan becomes an instant nightmare to contest, easily shaking off the highest caliber of shells with the most brutal numbers of penetration, and punishing them with its 4-round autoloader. With multiple classes within designated classes, there's plenty of room for every type of player to find a class and type of tank that they feel comfortable in. There's a vehicle out there for everyone. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean everyone's going to want to play WoT. In fact, WoT's community growth has been pretty abysmal for the past couple of years, on console and PC alike. But this leads me to reason number 5, WoT's faithful community. WoT players never leave and keep coming back to play the game they love. Throughout my time in WoT, I've encountered a lot of the same players at different tiers, which tells me that these players are continuing to grind through various stages of WoT again and again because they enjoy the game. An easy indicator to this faith of WoT is the years of service stamps. Every year of playing the game, I see more older service stamps, such as this year, 5s and 4s and 3s. This shows how players who've played the game for enough time dedicate themselves to it, coming back for years upon years to play the game they enjoy, regardless of its current status. What brings every individual back to WoT, I couldn't tell you. Everyone does different things for different reasons, but I can tell you reason number 6, which hopefully every WoT player's experienced, and that's the value of decisive plays. Decisive plays in WoT aren't simply outplaying another opponent just for them to spawn 2 seconds later and get their revenge. It's more rewarding than that. XP multiplies greatly if one fills more than one role. These rewards stack with any opposite players can activate to multiply their winnings even further, and even the most devastating defeat can promote signs of victory in the little things that one does during a match. It's the little things in WoT that count, not the killing spree you're going on. It's satisfying to remove higher tier tanks, more powerful tanks, or more powerful players from the match. This goes along the lines of being able to read the situation and make the right move at the right time, which allows for a slow-paced push to feel worth it at the end. However, not every tank is cut out for every situation, and this forces adaptation, which isn't a bad thing at all. The best players in any game are the ones who can perform adequately in any situation under any circumstances, which leads to my 7th and final reason. Different map rotations forces players to adapt, and classes of tank to succeed while others may have to adjust their playstyle. Map voting in games is a fun feature, but it doesn't invite adaptation if players keep using the same strategy or position on a certain map to reach certain victory. By keeping a random rotation of maps with different objectives and alternating spawn sequences, WoT keeps the mind thinking actively of what it will do next, and this can be entirely based on the tank one is playing. For these reasons, I don't exactly want to call WoT a perfect game, or possibly a good game for that matter. What bothers me is the structure, and how the game has seen development over the past couple of years, but I do find myself returning to it, because it's my comfort game. And you don't have to agree with me on everything I say, but know that this is why I've remained faithful to this stupid pay-to-win game for the past 5 years. Anyways, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon.